Hi, my name is Priya and I'm going to do a really brief introduction to coil building. So I've got my clay ready, and what I'm also going to want to use today is a board to build on. This one is drywall. You could also use just a wooden board with some newspaper on top to keep things from sticking. I've got a bucket of slip, which is just muddy clay and some water. And water works okay, but this is going to be stickier and I like it a lot better. And then I've got a knife tool. I like to use an X-Acto knife. Scratch tool, this is what mine looks like, but you can use any sort of serrated rib or even a fork. And then I've also got two ribs here. So I like having this big one for hand building. It's got a nice right angled corner on the bottom, and this little red one's also nice to have. So to start out with, I'm going to take my clay that I've already wedged, and I'm going to start kind of mashing it up and patting it and trying to make it into a long coil shape to start with. And if you know you're going to be hand building a whole lot, you can roll a bunch of coils in advance and then cover them in plastic so that you can kind of do more of an assembly line where you roll a bunch of coils and then you build a whole bunch. And as this starts getting longer, I can start squeezing it a little more and trying to make this more into a coil shape. You may feel like it's a good idea to spray down your work surface beforehand. If you got a canvas covered table, that often sucks the moisture out of things pretty quick. So I've got some water here, and before I put my clay here and start rolling, I'm just going to spray this down a little. Okay, so I've spread this out, it's getting a little longer, and I'm going to start rolling on the table. So I'm going to start with my hands in the center of the clay, and then I'm going to slowly come outwards. So to correct that, I'm just going to set it up on one side and then pat it a little more and keep going. Okay, so as this is getting longer, I'm going to stop and reshape it a little bit, and then I'm actually going to cut this in half because I feel like it's starting to get to be probably more than I want to work with at once, and I'm running out of table space a little bit as well. So I'm going to cut this. You might want to cover this other piece in plastic so that it doesn't dry out on me. And then I'm just going to spray this to make sure it's not getting too dry. Keep my work table wet enough, and I'm going to keep rolling a little more. So how thin or how thick to roll your coil really just depends on what you are making and how much structural stability that needs. If you're making something like a cup, that's going to be a lot more delicate, whereas if you're making a large scale figure sculpture, then maybe a coil like this big is really what you want to build with. Most of the time, if you're in a beginning ceramics class, you're maybe going to go for a coil that's about as thin or thick as your thumb or your pinky finger. So at this point, I'm feeling like this one is a good thickness, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a half dome shape. So to make that work out a little better, I'm going to pinch this so that I have more of a triangle shape to work with. And this is going to make it stack a little easier. So here we've got kind of a long triangle coil. And then I'm going to put down my board to build on top of.